Hi everyone, Zuki101 here, and today I'm going to be going over on how to fix a particular problem that I couldn't find a video on how to fix on YouTube. Surprisingly enough, because there is several videos on multiple amount of issues and fixes. However, this one particular problem doesn't come up on any of those videos, which is plugging in your charger, get one flash of yellow, and it stops. Now, mind you, this controller was completely dead. My son was playing Spider-Man for hours, and then eventually it died. And I just gave him a different controller. He continued playing. Days later, went to go charge it, ran into this problem. Pressed the PS button, nothing worked. Changed to different cables. I reset it on the back with the little hole here. You just stick a little paper clip in there, and there's a button that presses. Held it for at least 30 seconds just to make sure. Still didn't fix it. Plugged it into my PlayStation, didn't fix it. So I just figured, hey, maybe it's the battery. I've had this controller for ever since PS5 came out, and figured maybe it was time to replace it. So bought a couple higher capacity batteries so I could replace it on my other controller, which I did. Worked perfectly fine. That thing runs for hours now. However, with this one, nothing changed. Still does the same thing. Still couldn't turn it on. So hit the internet, specifically YouTube at first. Couldn't find a video. So then eventually found a post on Reddit where a guy had the similar issue. And well, after sifting through all of the different trolling comments, I found a gentleman that actually gave me a solution to the problem. And the solution is this guy right here. It is this flex cable that basically is the contact points for all of the D-pad buttons, the PS button, and the regular control buttons. Now, this one may be different for yours. Mine, like I said, got this with my original PlayStation, so it is a version 1. There is a couple different versions. There's a version 2 and a version 3. Slightly different flex cable design, but pretty much the same thing, except the other ones add a few other buttons, which then get snaked through other parts of the controller. And so we are going to replace this, and I will show you how. So here is everything you're going to need to fix the issue. You're going to need some kind of a prying tool, a screwdriver, and this one has a little magnet attached to it just so I can pick up the screws easily, the flex cable itself, and a little tray just to put all your screws on. Now you're going to start off by taking this prying tool, sticking it right underneath this plastic part, and popping that up. Doing the same with the other one. And then you're going to go around the whole perimeter of it. And then once you do that, you just need to lift. Don't try to force anything. Everything should come up pretty easily, and it just pops right out. Set that aside. Second, you're going to need to remove these two. Still use the same prying tool. Make sure you put your finger in front of it so it doesn't just pop out and fly out on you. And then the second one. Now we're going to first be removing the 4 screws that attach this back to it. And those are going to be located right here. So you're going to remove this screw. Put it on the tray. I like to keep them separated on the tray, not bundled up together, so that way when I go to pick them up with the screwdriver, I don't pick up each and every single one of the screws. So just kind of separate them by a little bit of a distance. There's going to be a total, I think, of 6 screws, I believe. Once you're done, at least of this kind, there's going to be 2 other kind of screws. The other one is right underneath where the L1 and R1 buttons are. And so just unscrew that. Place it over there. And screw this one. Next step, you're going to want to pry with the prying tool the backing of this by just running it along the side and prying as you go. Do again the same thing to the other side. Sorry for it being all dirty. And then once you're done with that, there's two more things you need to pry off. Let me make sure that's properly pried. There's these two little clips here. Just push the prying tool underneath it, and then make sure you turn this upside down, and then just pull up and out. There you go. And this is the new battery that I got for it. Like I said, on my other controller, it lasts like 3 to 4 times longer. So highly recommend picking one of these up on Amazon. Next thing you want to do is unplug this battery. Be very careful, you don't want to damage the cable. Now, with this, before you do anything else, you're going to want to unplug this microphone cable, and this kind of comes out, so you can put that on your tray as well. And then you're going to remove this screw right here in the middle. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And right after you unscrew that screw, this will come right up. After you're done with that, you're going to want to remove the circuit board. But before you pull on the circuit board, there's a lot of ribbon cables you have to unplug. And these all are just press fit. There's no clasps or anything like that. So, and they all have a little handy lip that you can grab onto. So you just grab onto that, pull that one out, pull the one for the L and R buttons, and then this one right here in the middle. This is for the second microphone that's on the front of the controller. Then after you're done with that, you just push up on the joysticks and then flip this gently forward. And it can hang there, it's not going to cause any issues if it does. Now the next screws we're going to remove are the ones right behind the vibration motors. So you're going to remove these. Now all these screws are the same except for the next two after these. Again, make sure you space them out so that they're not right next to each other, so that when you go to pick them up, it's really easy to pick up one and you don't pick up all of them. All right, now the next ones are located right here, connected to this white piece right here. There's one there and one there. So here we go. We're going to unscrew these two screws. That's going to allow this whole assembly to come off. Sorry for the focusing issues with my hand in the way. Now, to remove this, you just want to kind of gently pull up on these. Now make sure you keep this part facing down because there's a bunch of buttons that'll fall out. So next, we're going to want to remove this blue cable here, which is the issue. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to flip it upside down, and you're going to want to remove the connection pad part of it out of these little prongs that keep it in place. This is actually the connection for that particular cable. This is what gives the CPU board all the inputs from the buttons that are being pressed. Next, you're going to want to lift up gently on this side. Sometimes it'll just lift up on its own. Same thing with this one. Now there's these two in the middle right there, and then this whole thing should just come right out. Okay, so next what we're going to do is replace the ribbon cable with the new one. Make sure you have the shiny part of the connections right there up, and you're going to put that right into the slot. You're going to push down. You're going to put it all the way in until you can't any. Then you can put and clip that little part right there. Then on the other side, you're going to want to clip this part in as well. and the one right here, and the one on this side. Then you're going to want to flip this over. Make sure you're holding the CPU the whole time because you don't want those to unsolder. I just had those do that and I had to fix it real quick. And make sure that these go right into there, and it should look just like that. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put this right back into this. So what you want to do is make sure that that blue cable, being careful not to drop any of your buttons, slide that blue cable right back into that slot. Be conscious of this bottom cable here because that has to go in as well. And then once you do that, you can go ahead and slip these in. Now this is becoming a little harder to do on camera, so let me set it down for a second. Make sure that this cable goes in all the way. Just like that. And it should sit right in. Now you're going to replace the only long screws that come in it, and they're a bigger thread, so you can tell the difference between these. I don't know if they ever come in black, but these came in silver. Yours might be different. The new design might be different. I don't know. I don't have a newer Dualsense controller, so I'm not quite sure what the version 2 or 3 looks like. Then the next one goes right into this hole. Make sure not to over tighten because you don't want to strip those holes out. The next step is going to be replacing the neck screws on this side, right over here, right above the haptic feedback motors. Like I said, make sure you don't over tighten because you don't want to strip the plastic out. The next one is right here. All right, so the next step is a little tricky because you got to get all these cables out of the way so that they don't end up underneath. Especially this little tiny one for the microphone. That is a little bit of a problem maker. So what I do is I kind of hold it back with my fingers and make sure that that one, in particular, that little tiny ribbon cable, just barely misses. And if you have to, you can use your screwdriver to pull it out. But then once you get that in, also this ribbon cable back here should slip right in. Then you're going to want to re-engage this blue one. Now, like I said, these are press fits. You don't have to do any kind of clipping. There's not a clipping mechanism. It just press fits into there. So that one's in. Then I plug this one into this connector. This is for the triggers. Same with this one. You can always put your screwdriver down, make it a little easier. So there goes that one. And the next one is this tiny one right here. And that one just goes right into this little slot. And just like the others, it just slips right in. All right. Next part we're going to do is we're going to replug this in because it's much easier without that tray in. Just want to make sure you don't pinch it when you're installing the tray. This will go right into this connection right here. And then now with these cables on the side, be careful because they are thin and they're a little delicate. You can accidentally unsolder them, or more like they snap, and you can always resolder them. But if you're not good at soldering, you might want to be extra careful. You want to make sure there's these little hooks right here, And that's for you to grab those cables and make sure that they're out of the way. Now at the same time, you want to make sure you flip this out, because you don't want that to be underneath that tray. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but there we go. And so then once you do that, it's best to go ahead and screw this one down, because it makes it easier to insert the microphone. So next, you want to make sure you slip this microphone back into this area. So what you want is this little shiny part right there. That goes right underneath into that little slot there. So you just want to feed it in like so. I say like so, and it's not going in as easily as you want to, but I just have to unplug it. There we go. And then if you have to unplug it, just make sure you reconnect that connector right into that slot, like so. All right, so almost done here. Next step is to put the battery in. And make sure that if you look here, let me focus on that. There's these little ridges there that will go right into the ridge on the controller right there. So just make sure that that slips right in there. Now with this, what you want to do is you want to tuck it, but you want to make sure that you tuck it here in the corner like that, so it's out of the way. Because if it goes over the top here, it will not close properly. And I like to put it this way. I know I had it the other way around, but this is a little bit better, so that way that this nicely tucks in this direction. Once you're done with that, you could put it the other way and tape it down, but I've found that you really don't need to do that with this. Now you're going to put the trigger part first of these. So you're going to slip this in here first like that, and then push down all around so that this clips together. And then once that's there, you want to make sure that these bottom clips clip in. And then holding it tight on each side, you're going to want to pick up one of these screws, and we're going to rescrew in the back. Now if you don't screw these in properly, your charging port will not be aligned. So again, don't over tighten, but also don't under tighten. How much is that? Well, these usually have this little band that once that engages and it spins, you can tighten it just a tiny bit more, and that should be good enough. So here's the next screw on the other side. I'm trying to do this with one hand. All right, and then on this side, underneath the little black clip part that we took off at first. Oops. Sorry, like I said, I'm trying to do this with one hand. Make sure you squeeze the controller together, the two halves, so that way you don't have any gaps later. For some reason, when prying it, some of the clips broke. It's very common for them to break, but the screws do a good job of holding it together. And trust me, it'll feel pretty solid once you're done, even if that occurred. All right, so the next step is we're going to replace the buttons. Well, look at that. It already works. Nice. Okay, so yeah, this is the left one. The left is upside down, just so you know. And then there's like a little Look here, there's these little guides right here. Those are going to go right into those little slots right there. So it's very specific on where it goes in. So don't try to force anything. And after that, it'll just click right in. And then here again, be upside down, because when you turn it this way, they'll be right side up. And that just goes right into that little slot. Clip that in. Then next, we're going to put these two little horn pieces right into here, and it should just slide right in. If not, try readjusting it. Eventually it'll go in properly. You don't want it to get too far underneath, because it's really supposed to sit right on top, just like that. And then you'll want to bring this over, clip that in, bring this other one over, clip that in, and then you can push right there and all the way around. And there we go. Now we have a working PS5 controller. How about that? And since this is a brand new battery, I highly doubt that it will actually charge right now, but yeah, right now it's not going to charge because, like I said, this is a brand new battery, so it's probably fully charged. But that is it. Now my PS button works, and I've got a working controller again. Hope this helped. Thank you for watching.